welcome back to Dimebag Darren, World Headquarters here, in the corner of my living room. This time once again for Omnivox Storytime on the Omnivox channel. Thanks for coming. We're on to chapter number 4 of Isaac Asimov's Foundation in the book called the Encyclopedists. Now, I was looking for a way to make this a little more comfortable. So I got a StreamYard pillow. Put the book on, which actually brings it a little bit closer to the camera as well. So I'll make a little adjustment for you here. And we'll see how that works out. Keeping our place with a little Canadian Tire money. Because, you know, that's actual money here in Canada, right? All right, chapter 4. Actually, that might be just a touch too loud. All right. Now chapter 4. Lord Dorwin took snuff. He also had long hair curled intricately and quite obviously artificially, to which were added a pair of fluffy blonde sideburns, which he fondled affectionately. Then, too, he spoke in over-precise statements and left out all the R's. At the moment, Hardin had no time to think more about the reasons for the instant detestation in which he held the noble chancellor. Oh yes, the elegant gestures of one hand with which he accompanied his remarks, and the studied condescension with which he accompanied even a simple affirmative. But at any rate, the problem was to locate him. He had disappeared with Perrin half an hour before. Passed clean out of sight, blast them. Hardin was quite sure that his own absence during the preliminary discussions would quite suit Perrin, but Perrin had been seen in this wing and on this floor. It was simply a matter of trying every door. Halfway down, he said, "Ha!" and stepped into the darkened room. The profile of Lord Dorwin's intricate hairdo was unmistakable against the lit screen. Lord Dorwin looked up and said, "Ah, Hardin, you've been looking for us." "No doubt." He held out his own snuff box, over-adorned and poor workmanship at that, noted Hardin, and was politely refused, whereat he helped himself to a pinch and smiled graciously. Perrin scowled. Hardin met that with an expression of blank indifference. The only sound to break the short silence that followed was the clicking of the lid of Lord Dorwin's snuff box. And then he put it away and said, "A great achievement, this encyclopedia of yours, Hardin. A feat indeed to rank with the most majestic accomplishments of all time." "Most of us think so, my lord. It is an accomplishment not quite accomplished as yet, however. From what little I've seen of the efficiency of your foundation, I have no fears on that score." And he nodded to Perrin, who responded with a delighted bow. Quite a love fest, thought Hardin. I wasn't complaining about the lack of efficiency, my lord, as much as the definite excess of efficiency on the part of the Anachronians, though in another more destructive direction. "Ah, yes, Anacreon," a negligent wave of the hand. "I just come from there. Most barbarous planet. It is thoroughly inconceivable that human beings should live here in the periphery. The lack of the most elementary requirements of a cultured gentleman, the absence of the most fundamental necessities for comfort and convenience, the utter desuetude in which they—" Hardin interrupted dryly. "The Anachronians, unfortunately, have all the elementary requirements for warfare and all the fundamental necessities for destruction." Quite. Lord Dorwin seemed annoyed, perhaps at being stopped midway in his sentence. "But we aren't to discuss business now, you know. Really, I'm otherwise overwhelmed. Dr. Perrin, are you going to show me the second volume? Please do." The lights clicked out, and for the next half hour, Hardin might as well have been on Anacreon for all the attention they paid him. The book screen made little sense to him, nor did he trouble to make the attempt to follow. But Lord Dorwin became quite humanly excited at times. Hardin noticed that during these moments of excitement the Chancellor pronounced his R's. When the lights were on again, Lord Dorwin said, "Marvelous! Truly marvelous! You aren't by chance interested in archaeology, are you, Hardin?" "Eh?" Hardin shook himself out of an abstracted reverie. "No, my lord, can't say that I am. I'm a psychologist by original intention, and a politician by final decision." "Aha, no doubt interesting studies. I myself, dabble in archaeology." "Indeed, his lordship," interrupted Perrin, "is most thoroughly acquainted with work in the field." "Well, perhaps I am, said his lordship. "I've done an awful amount of work in the science. Extremely well read, in fact. I've gone through all Jordan, Obisasi, Cromwell, all of them, "I've heard of them, of course," said Hardin, "but I've never read them." "You should some day, my dear fellow. It would amply repay you. Well, I would consider it well worth the trip here to the refectory to see the copy of Lameth. Would you believe it? My library totally lacks a copy. By the way, Dr. Perrin, have you not forgotten your promise to develop a copy for me before I leave?" "Oh, no, too pleased. Lameth, continued the Chancellor pontifically, presents a new and most interesting addition to my previous knowledge of the origin question." "What question?" "The origin question. The place of the origin of the human species, Surely you must know that it was thought that originally the human race occupied only one planetary system." "Well, yes, I know that." "Of course. No one knows exactly what system it is. Lost in the mists of antiquity. There are theories, however. Sirius, some say. Others insist Alpha Centauri, on Sol, or on 61 Cygni, all in the Sirius region, "And what does Lameth say?" "Well, he goes off on a new trail completely. He tries to show archaeological remains on the third planet of the Actuan system, show that humanity existed there before there was any indication of space travel." "And that means it was humanity's birth planet?" "Perhaps, if I read it closely and weigh the evidence before I say a thing. One must see how reliable his observations are." Hardin remained silent for a moment and said, "When did Lameth write this book?" "Oh, I should say about 800 years ago, of course. It is based largely on the previous work of Glean." "Then why rely on him? Why not go to Arcturus and study the remains for yourself?" Lord Dorwin raised his eyebrow and took a sniff of snuff hurriedly. "Why, whatever for, my dear fellow? To get the information firsthand, of course." "But where's the necessity? It seems uncommonly roundabout and hopelessly rigmarolish method of getting anywheres. Look here now. I got the works of the old masters, the great archaeologists of the past. I weigh them against each other, balance the disagreements, analyze the conflicting statements, decide which is probably correct, and come to a conclusion. That's the scientific method, as far as I see it. How insufferably crude would it be to go to Anacreus or to Saul and stumble around, blunder about with the old masters have covered the ground so much more effectually than we could ever possibly hope to do." "I see. Scientific method, hell. No wonder the galaxy was going to pot." "Come, my lord," said Perrin. "I think we'd better be returning." "Ah, yes, perhaps we had." As they left the room, Hardin said suddenly, "My lord, may I ask a question?" Lord Dorwin smiled blandly, and emphasized his answer with a gracious flutter of the hand. "Certainly, my dear fellow. Only happy to be of service. If I can help you in any way from my poor store of knowledge." "It isn't exactly about archaeology, my lord." "No?" "No. It's this. Last year, we received news here on Terminus about the explosion of a power plant on Planet 5 of Gamma Andromeda. We got the hairiest outline of the accident, no details at all. I wondered if you could tell me exactly what happened. I wonder you annoy his lordship with questions on totally irrelevant subjects." Not at all, Dr. Pine, interceded the Chancellor. It's quite all right. There isn't much to say concerning it in any case. The power plant did explode, and it was quite a catastrophe, you know. I believe several million people were killed, and at least half the planet was simply laid in ruins. Really, the government is seriously considering placing several restrictions upon the indiscriminate use of atomic power, though that is not a thing for general publication, you know. I understand. But what was wrong with the plant? Well, really, replied Lord Darwin indifferently, who knows? It had broken down some years previously, and it was thought that the replacements and repair work was most inferior. It is so difficult these days to find men who really understand much technical details of old power systems. And he took a sorrowful pinch of snuff. You realize, said Hardin, that the independent kingdoms of the periphery have lost atomic power altogether? Have they? I'm not at all surprised. Barbarous planets. Oh, my dear fellow, but don't call them independent. They ain't, you know. Their treaties we've made with them all prove positive of that. They acknowledge the sovereignty of the Emperor. They have to, of course, or we wouldn't tweet with them. That may be so, but they have considerable freedom of action. Yes, I suppose so, considerable. That scarcely matters. The Empire's far better off with the periphery thrown upon its own resources as it is, more or less. They aren't any good to us, you know. Most barbarous planets. Scarcely civilized. They were civilized in the past. Anacreon was one of the richest of the outlying provinces. I understand it compared favorably with Vega itself. Oh, but Hardin, that was centuries ago. You can scarcely draw conclusions from that. Things were different in the old great days. We aren't the men we used to be, you know. But Hardin, come. You're a most persistent chap. I told you I simply won't discuss business today. Dr. Perrine did prepare me for you. He told me you would try to badger me, but I'm far too old a hand for that. Let's leave it for next day. And that was that. And thus ends Chapter 4 of Isaac Asimov's Foundation, the Encyclopedists. Hope you're enjoying it as much as I am. From Dimebag Darren World Headquarters, Omnivox Storytime with Dimebag. We are out of here. Catch you next time. Bye for now.